Hey everyone. Welcome to my channel B&B Glow. Get out of my house. When Eric found out that Taylor and Ridge were engaged, he had an explosive outburst. Although the bold and the beautiful has never shied away from violent altercations, Eric Forrester's irate order, "Get out of my house now." One of the most intense scenes in recent storyline history is directed at Taylor Hayes after learning that she was engaged to his son, Ridge. It was filled with raw emotion, betrayal, and deep-seated resentment, as Eric, the typically calm patriarch of the Forrester family, lost his temper completely upon hearing the shocking news. His reaction was not just about Ridge and Taylor's engagement, it was the result of years of personal grievances, professional rivalries, and the after-effects of previous betrayals. Tension was evident from the moment Taylor entered the Forrester mansion. She had hoped to tell Eric about her good news, expecting at least some support, considering their complicated but long-standing history. However, Eric's reaction was anything but congratulatory, as he launched into a barrage of insults, accusing Taylor of opportunism, manipulation, and even casting doubt on her competence as a psychiatrist. "You've always known how to twist situations to your advantage," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "After everything, getting married to Ridge? You're unreal." His comments were piercing and intended to pierce deeply, and they succeeded. The layers of history between Taylor and Eric were what made his outburst so explosive. Taylor and Eric had once had a close bond. She had been a confidant, a stabilizing force in the Forrester family, and even a romantic interest for Eric at one point. However, over the years, their relationship had deteriorated, especially as Taylor's on-again, off-again dynamic with Ridge continued to cause chaos in the family. Eric had repeatedly witnessed Taylor's presence disrupt his son's marriage to Brooke Logan, and now, with Ridge proposing to Taylor so soon after his most recent breakup with Brooke, Eric saw it as just another cycle of chaos, one that Taylor was voluntarily sustaining. "You love the idea of winning," Eric said sharply, his eyes burning with fury. "You don't love him. You enjoy making fun of Brooke. Ridge, though? He's simply a pawn in your game." The accusation struck a nerve, and Taylor's usually calm demeanor faltered. She fired back, defending her relationship and insisting that her love for Ridge was real, but Eric wasn't having it. "Real? You expect anyone to believe that after all these years and all the back and forth?" he sneered. His incredulity was tinged with scorn, and it was obvious that Taylor had changed from being the respectable woman he had formerly held in high regard to becoming simply another cause of strife in the Forrester household. The turning moment was when Eric, who could no longer control his rage, said, "Leave my house now," and pointed to the door. "You're not welcome here. Never, ever now." The scene was a masterwork of emotional storytelling, highlighting the deep divisions within the Forrester family and the lingering scars of past conflicts. The command was final, leaving no room for argument. Taylor, stunned by the severity of his rejection, had no choice but to walk away, her engagement joy shattered by Eric's brutal dismissal. Beyond their personal animosity, however, Eric's outburst also reflected his fears for Ridge. As a father who had watched his son spend decades alternating between Taylor and Brooke, he was sick of seeing Ridge trapped in the same destructive pattern, and he saw Taylor as unstable, a reminder of Ridge's incapacity to commit to a long-term relationship without outside intervention. By demanding that she leave, Eric wasn't just rejecting Taylor, he was attempting to shield his son from what he perceived as another unavoidable heartbreak. Future episodes will surely be affected by the fallout from this confrontation. Will Ridge support Taylor, or will Eric's scathing remarks cause him to doubt himself? How will Brooke respond, knowing that her longtime rival is now engaged to the man she still loves? One thing is for sure, Eric's explosive, "Leave my house now." The fight for Ridge's heart, and the destiny of the Forrester family, is far from done because has set the stage for even more drama. The bold and the beautiful explode. Taylor's day of shame. Eric bars her from the mansion. Brooke's proxy retaliation? Fans are reeling, questioning loyalty, and wondering if the woman Taylor once thought of as a friend orchestrated her downfall. The drama on The Bold and the Beautiful has reached a fever pitch as Taylor Hayes endured one of the most humiliating nights of her life, which culminated in Eric Forrester's shocking power move of banning her from the mansion. But was this all part of Brooke Logan's subtle revenge scheme, carried out through the perfect proxy, Sheila Carter? The disgrace heard in Los Angeles. After months of conflict with Brooke, Steffi, and Ridge, Taylor Hayes, the once respected psychiatrist and confidant of the Forrester family, found herself embroiled in a scandal she never anticipated. Her world fell apart when Eric, the patriarch of the Forrester dynasty, publicly humiliated her and said she was no longer welcome in the mansion. The confrontation was harsh, with Eric accusing her of meddling in family matters, controlling Rich, and upsetting the harmony he had worked so hard to preserve. According to rumors, Sheila Carter, the cunning wild card, may have been a major factor in Taylor's demise. Sheila has been hiding in the background and has a talent for taking advantage of weaknesses. Perhaps she gave Eric enough false information to make him turn against Taylor. The twist is that she may have been acting alone or unintentionally as a pawn in Brooke's long-term plan. Brooke's proxy revenge? Sheila Carter is the ideal weapon for Brooke Logan, who has always been a master strategist, even when she seems to be the victim. After years of fighting Taylor for Rich's affection, witnessing her children suffer from the back-and-forth drama, and putting up with Taylor's self-righteous judgments, Brooke may have finally come to the conclusion that the best kind of retaliation is the kind you don't have to dirty your hands with. Sheila's grudge against Steffi, and consequently, Taylor, is well known, and Brooke may have contributed to Taylor's eventual humiliation by tacitly supporting it, or at the very least, failing to stop it. If Sheila was the one whispering in Eric's ear, feeding him inflated tales about Taylor's meddling, then Brooke didn't have to do a thing. The devastation happened organically, with Sheila handling the grudges while Brooke preserved her reputation as the patient, forgiving matriarch. A line in the sand, Eric's cruel decree. With Rich divided between Taylor and Brooke, Steffi at odds with Hope, and Sheila lurking like a viper, Eric had to make a statement, and what better way to do so than to banish the woman at the heart of all the chaos. Eric's decision to ban Taylor from the mansion wasn't just a personal slight, it was a power move meant to reassert his authority. However, was Eric really acting in the best interests of the family, or was he coerced into this decision? Given his emotional instability and health issues, he is a prime candidate for manipulation, so if Sheila, or even Brooke, carefully sowed doubt in his mind, then Taylor's exile wasn't just about her behavior, but also about who had the most power over Eric. The dilemma of Ridge and Steffi's fury. But where does Ridge stand in all of this? Torn between his complicated love for Brooke and his past with Taylor, Ridge's silence during Taylor's humiliation spoke volumes. Did he agree with Eric's decision, or was he too afraid to challenge the family patriarch? Steffi Forrester was understandably incensed at Eric's decision because Taylor is her mother and her rock, and seeing her publicly shamed was a blow Steffi won't soon forget. Ridge's inaction will have repercussions. If he doesn't stand up for Taylor, he could lose Steffi's respect and possibly rekindle the conflict between the Logan and Forrester women. If he does, however, he might be perceived as undermining Eric's authority, which would further splinter the family. What will happen to Taylor next? Taylor has always been a fighter, and being kicked out of the family she once healed could be the trigger for a darker, more vicious side of herself. Now that she is prohibited from the Forrester mansion, her future in Los Angeles is uncertain. Will she slink away in defeat, or will this humiliation fuel a vengeful comeback? One thing is certain, Taylor Hayes never gives up easily. Will she stand with Sheila, the only person who can relate to being shunned by the Forresters, or will she turn on Brooke, finally sacrificing her morals and acting dirty? In conclusion, the war is still ongoing. Regardless of whether Brooke planned it through Sheila or just profited from the disruption, it is certain that the Logan-Forrester war has entered a perilous new stage. Eric's expulsion of Taylor was more than just a personal jab, it was a fundamental change in the Bold and the Beautiful's power structure. Although Brooke may have won, directly or indirectly, from Taylor's humiliation night, no triumph in the world of B&B is free. With Steffi furious, Ridge torn, and Sheila still on the loose, the consequences from this explosive showdown is far from done. The Bold and the Beautiful explode, Eric's ruthless power move stuns everyone. You betrayed this family. The Bold and the Beautiful delivered one of its most explosive confrontations to date in a shocking turn of events that no one saw coming. Eric Forrester, long regarded as the wise and compassionate patriarch of the Forrester dynasty, unleashed a scathing condemnation that left the entire family reeling. You betrayed this family, he roared, his voice shaking with fury, as he delivered a ruthless power move that instantly reshaped the battlefield of Forrester creations. The fallout was immediate, the shockwaves were undeniable, and the stunned silence that followed proved that no one was safe from Eric's wrath. But who was his target? And what does this mean for the future of the Forresters? The startling charge, Who went too far? It was Steffi Forrester, the fierce and devoted heiress who has always been a cornerstone of the Forrester legacy, who was the target of Eric's rage when he pointed his finger and said, "You betrayed this family." But how could Steffi, the woman who has fought tooth and nail to protect the family empire, possibly be accused of betrayal? Her recent alliance with Sheila Carter, the woman who has been both a nightmare and an unlikely ally in Steffi's personal war against Hope Logan, holds the key to the solution. In a desperate attempt to undermine Hope's power over Finn and the company, Steffi struck a risky deal. She would ignore Sheila's manipulations in exchange for leverage against her enemies. However, Eric, who has spent decades protecting his family from Sheila's poison, saw this as the height of treachery. Eric's ruthless command, "Leave my house." In a move that shocked even Ridge and Brooke, Eric, who never holds back, declared that Steffi was no longer welcome in the Forrester mansion until she severed all ties with Sheila and publicly denounced her. "You don't get to bring that woman's evil into my home and call yourself a Forrester," he said, his eyes blazing with a fury rarely seen from the normally composed mogul. The demand was harsh, the punishment was quick, and the ramifications were enormous. Steffi, who has always taken pride in being the family's strongest advocate, is now expelled and called a traitor by the one man whose approval she has consistently sought. Will she comply with Eric's demands, or will this only strengthen her bond with Sheila, the only person who knows what it's like to be rejected by the Forresters? Was Brooke the mastermind behind her quiet triumph? Despite the fact that Eric's outburst appeared to be spontaneous, astute viewers couldn't help but notice the faint smile that briefly appeared on Brooke Logan's face as Steffi was publicly humiliated. Having been embroiled in a bitter feud with Steffi for years, Brooke has every reason to want her rival undermined, and what better way to do so than by turning Eric? If this is accurate, it would be Brooke's most brilliant power play to date, letting Eric do the dirty work while she stands back, the picture of innocence. However, if Steffi ever finds out, the retaliation will be brutal. There are rumors that Brooke may have sowed the seeds of doubt in Eric's mind, giving him just enough information about Steffi's dealings with Sheila to cause this nuclear reaction. Rich's hard decision, protect his daughter or follow his father's lead. Rich Forrester, a man who is constantly caught between love for his children and allegiance to his father, is caught in the crossfire. As Steffi stood stunned, Rich's silence was deafening. Did he approve of Eric's severe punishment, or was he too scared to question the family patriarch? Rich's legacy may be determined by this moment. If he fails to defend Steffi, he runs the risk of permanently losing her trust, which might drive her closer to Sheila. Yet, if he disobeys Eric, he may start a power struggle within Forrester Creations, putting father against son in a struggle for dominance. Finn's conundrum, support Eric or stand by Steffi. Then there is Steffi's husband, John Finn Finnegan, who has always been torn between his affair with Sheila, who, let's not forget, is his biological mother, and his love for Steffi. If he supports Steffi, he runs the risk of alienating Eric, the man who gave him a position in the Forrester empire, but if he deserts her now, their marriage might not survive the betrayal. Will Sheila take advantage of the chaos? Naturally, no Forrester drama would be complete without Sheila Carter lurking in the background. Now that Steffi is alone and exposed, Sheila has the ideal opportunity to pounce on him further. Will she offer Steffi a perverse alliance in exchange for retribution against Brooke and Eric? Or will she take advantage of this to manipulate Finn and separate him from the Forresters? There's no denying that Sheila thrives on chaos, and Eric just gave her the greatest chance to date. What comes next? A war-torn family. In his attempt to keep control, Eric may have irreparably damaged the family, but his explosive revelation wasn't only directed at Steffi, it conveyed a message to the whole family. No one is above the Forrester name. Will Steffi accept Sheila's darkness in defiance of Eric? Will Rich stand up for what he believes in, even if it means going to war with his father? Is Eric acting alone, or is Brooke quietly manipulating things? Above all, can the Forresters withstand this degree of treachery? There is little doubt that the fight for Forrester Creations' soul is only getting started, and that the bold and the beautiful has just entered its most incendiary era to date. After getting cold feet, Rich Forrester dumps Taylor before I do. In the erratic world of the bold and the beautiful, where hearts are broken as easily as champagne glasses at Forrester weddings, the latest bombshell shakes the foundation of an already fragile love triangle. Rich Forrester, fashion tycoon, notorious waffler, and eternal object of desire, seems to be having second thoughts once more. As the finishing touches were being added to his picture-perfect wedding to Taylor Hayes, the rumors started to circulate that he might change his mind and the wedding might come to an abrupt end. Is it true that Rich dumps Taylor before saying "I do"? If so, what caused this last-minute hesitation? Could it be a ghost from his romantic past, a crisis of conscience, or a cruel realization that he just isn't over Brooke Logan? The wedding was supposed to be Taylor's long-awaited fairy tale. After years of being second best in Ridge's eyes and witnessing him fall in love with and then return to Brooke Logan more times than fans can count, Taylor was finally in the spotlight. Ridge had apparently chosen her, again. However, this time, there were lavish celebrations, sincere vows, and even Steffi and Thomas celebrating their parents' reunion. It seemed certain that everything would work out, with Taylor looking radiant. Insiders say that Brooke's name creeps into conversations too often, and Rich becomes defensive when anyone, especially Steffi, asks whether he's truly ready to close the Brooke chapter for good. Taylor, ever the psychologist, senses something's off, but she brushes it aside because she wants to believe in the promise. She wants to believe in Rich. Rich starts to unravel emotionally in the days leading up to the wedding, according to behind-the-scenes whispers and sneak peeks. Despite his firm words and attempts to convince himself that this union with Taylor is right, there is a growing tension behind his eyes, and he disappears for extended periods of time. Though Brooke isn't actively interfering this time, he has left an impression. Their last farewell was full of incomplete sentences and long looks. It wasn't a clean break, even though Ridge tried to make it seem like it. Ridge has repeatedly been drawn back into Brooke's orbit, no matter the harm or the cost. Their relationship is chaotic, toxic even, but it is undeniable. Then comes the wedding day. The guests arrive. Taylor looks stunning in a flowing Forrester original gown. The room is a hive of excitement. Ridge stands at the altar, his tux perfect, but his foundation is cracked. His hands shake, and his eyes dart to the entrance, half expecting Brooke to interrupt the ceremony in typical soap opera fashion, but she doesn't. This union is threatened by Ridge, not by outside drama. According to the spoilers, just before Taylor walks down the aisle, Ridge confides in Eric that he is unsure if he can carry out the plan. He says he loves Taylor very much, but that spark, that gut feeling, that this is forever feeling he had once, maybe twice, with Brooke are all gone. Eric, conflicted between being honest and supportive, asks Ridge if it is fair to marry Taylor out of guilt or pressure, but Ridge doesn't answer. In a gut-wrenching twist, just as the officiant asks if anyone objects, Ridge speaks up. He doesn't say "I do." Instead, he says, "I can't." As Taylor approaches, arm linked with Thomas, the audience witnesses the height of Ridge's inner battle. Will he lie his way through another ceremony, only to let Taylor down later, or will he risk humiliating her now to avoid a deeper heartbreak? Fans watch as Taylor's dream deflates in real time as Ridge approaches her with an apologetic yet determined face and tells her that she deserves someone who can love her completely, and he's not that man, not now. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Steffi is horrified. Gasps reverberate throughout the mansion. The fallout is a storm of emotional devastation. Taylor is devastated, her self-worth once again tied up in Ridge's indecision. Steffi is furious, not only at Ridge but also at Brooke, whom she holds accountable, rightfully or wrongly, for her father's incapacity to move on. Thomas spirals, feeling that the family he worked so hard to reunite is once again shattered. And Brooke? She has finally come to terms with Ridge's decision, but now everything is up in the air. Ridge disappears for a while. Some speculate that he may leave LA temporarily to get some fresh air, perhaps going to Aspen or Paris. Others speculate that he will show up at Brooke's door unexpectedly, not to reunite but to admit that he's lost and doesn't know who he is without the push and pull between the two women. Brooke, to her credit, doesn't swoon. Instead, she may tell Ridge to get his act together before approaching her again. For once, she has the upper hand. A third group is emerging. Team Ridge needs therapy. Viewers are pointing out Ridge's pattern of emotional instability, and many are pleading with the writers to give Ridge a period of real growth without bouncing between women like a designer ping-pong ball. Team Brooke sees it as inevitable, while Team Taylor advocates are heartbroken and incensed, calling Ridge's behavior cruel and repetitive. Why propose if he wasn't sure? Why let it get to the altar? As for Ridge and Brooke, fans shouldn't expect an immediate reunion because there is too much pain and damage, but this pause in Ridge's wedding saga does leave the door slightly open. However, Spoilers indicate that Ridge and Taylor are not done being together. Taylor may not forgive easily, but she won't cut Ridge out of her life completely, not with their shared history and children. There may be more conversations and attempts at closure. It remains to be seen if that leads to reconciliation or mutual parting. And what about the next chapter? According to some insiders, Taylor might find solace in Bill Spencer, who has a penchant for strong, complex women. Others speculate that Nick Marone might make a comeback and rekindle an old romance with Brooke, and the fallout from Ridge's indiscretion could lead to multiple unexpected romances. In typical Bold and the Beautiful fashion, this isn't just a failed wedding, it's a plot explosion that will reverberate throughout friendships, families, and boardrooms. It rekindles old rivalries, creates new ones, and serves as a painful reminder to viewers that, despite his status as the show's protagonist, Ridge Forrester's heart is a storm that no one can control. Whether fans like him or hate him, they can't help but stare. Because in this soap opera, love isn't just a feeling, it's a battlefield, and Ridge just started a war. According to spoilers, Ridge did dump Taylor before saying "I do," and not in a last-minute whisper. He did it in front of everyone, and that one act could alter the course of B&B for months to come.